All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we are taking a deep dive
Into.
into Coca-Cola's Q3 2024 earnings call.
Yeah,
Straight from the source.
straight from the horse's mouth.
Exactly. And we're talking about like a level of detail that you just wouldn't get from like glancing at a headline or two.
No, you're going to get some real insights
Yeah.
from this deep dive.
Exactly. So like the kind of stuff that makes you go,
I didn't know that.
yeah, exactly.
That's what we're aiming for.
That's what we're aiming for sure. And,
What's really interesting,
mean-
it's like getting this behind the scenes look
yeah,
at one of the world's like most iconic brands.
for sure.
Like, how are they navigating this crazy global economy right now?
Yeah.
What are the strategies that they're using, not just to survive, but actually to thrive? So that's what we're going to uncover.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to uncover all that together. And I think a good place to start
Yeah.
is with that global roller coaster you were talking
Yeah.
about. Because I was looking at the numbers for Coke's Q3,
Okay.
and it really does seem like kind of a mixed bag.
It does.
So like overall volume dipped by 1%, but there's like this interesting twist to that.
Yeah, there is.
Right.
So this decline in developing markets actually ended up like boosting Coke's price mix overall.
Okay, so price mix now.
Now, that might sound like a bunch of financial jargon.
It does.
It's actually a pretty simple concept. So it's basically the average price of all the products
Okay.
that Coke sells,
Okay.
taking into account the different prices and the
Okay.
quantities sold.
So,
Yeah.
but wait, how does a decline in sales actually boost the average price?
Yeah.
It seems kind of counterintuitive.
Right. But think about it this way.
Uh-huh.
Developing markets, they're usually a lot more price sensitive.
Right.
So think about those regions.
Yeah.
People might be more likely to just buy like a single bottle
Oh, like
rather than a whole case. And they're probably looking for like more budget-friendly options as well.
Right.
So when those sales go down, the proportion of like those higher priced sales
Okay.
in developed markets where people are less price sensitive, it goes up.
Okay.
And that pulls up the average price like across the board.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that's not even just like a Coke thing, is it? I mean, this kind of dynamic probably happens in other industries too.
Absolutely. It's kind of this reminder that global economics, they're really complex
Yeah.
and often very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But Coke, they saw some good momentum building throughout the quarter,
Okay.
ending September really strong.
Yeah. And they even predicted a return to volume growth in Q4 and beyond.
It did.
So is that just like blind optimism, or do they
Yeah.
have some sort of secret weapon that they're going to like pull out?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Right.
But this prediction definitely raises some questions
Yeah.
about how sustainable this strategy really is,
Right.
especially, in this really volatile economic environment,
Right.
which we'll dive into more a bit later.
All right. So let's talk strategy then.
Sure.
What is Coke doing to stay ahead of the game?
Well, one word, marketing.
Yeah.
They're not just relying on that name and logo anymore.
Right.
They are getting incredibly innovative with their marketing.
Those Olympic and Paralympic Games campaigns come to mind.
Yes.
They went all out, did they? What was it, like 250 influencers?
Almost 250, yeah. And it wasn't just any random influencers. It was Olympic athletes, musicians, even gamers.
Wow.
So a mix that really expanded their reach,
Yeah.
beyond just sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, they really created a whole global experience.
They did.
From fan zones to customized packaging. I even remember seeing those special Coke bottles with athletes' faces on them.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about like slapping the Coke logo everywhere.
Right.
They really cleverly integrated like digital live and retail experiences.
Interesting.
It was almost like a 360-degree approach.
Cool.
Yeah.
And this wasn't like your typical old school advertising either.
Yeah.
They really tapped into how people are consuming media today.
Totally. They embraced digital platforms, influencer marketing, and even like personalized experiences.
So it's a far cry from like the days of TV commercials
Oh, yeah.
and billboards.
Absolutely.
But let's be real, not every marketing gamble is a home run.
Right.
Remember Coca-Cola Spice?
Coca-Cola Spice.
Yeah.
Let's just say it wasn't their biggest hit.
No, it was not.
But that's all part of the process, isn't it?
Right.
Sometimes you swing for the fences and you miss.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is that they're willing to take risks, try new things, and learn from their mistakes, which not every company is brave enough to do.
Exactly. And it's something we can all learn from.
Right.
Whether it's in our personal lives or our professional endeavors.
Yeah.
A little bit of calculated risk-taking can lead to some really big rewards.
I like that. All right, so Coca-Cola Spice may have fizzled out, but one of their other ventures is absolutely exploding right now,
It is.
and that's Topo Chico.
Topo Chico is having a moment, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Its global growth has just been phenomenal. And what's interesting is they're using a really similar marketing playbook
Oh, really?
to the Olympic strategy,
Okay.
creating these really engaging, localized experiences.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
they're creating a global buzz, but they're also like adapting
Mm-hmm.
to local tastes and preferences.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's that balance between global consistency and local relevance.
Exactly. And it's working wonders for them because with Topo Chico, they're not just selling sparkling water.
Right.
They're selling a lifestyle, an attitude,
Oh, wow.
a way of life.
I like that.
Yeah, and they're doing it in a way that feels really authentic and relatable to
That-
all these different cultures.
That's clever. Now, here's like the million-dollar question.
Okay, shoot.
How does Coke appeal to budget-conscious consumers
Right.
while also like pushing into these like fancy premium segments?
Yeah.
It seems like they're trying to walk this really fine line.
It is a balancing act, and it's fascinating to watch how they're doing it.
So how are they pulling it off?
Well, essentially, they have like a two-pronged approach.
Huh.
On the one hand, they're making sure that Coke is accessible
Duh.
to everyone, no matter what their budget is.
So what does that look like in practice?
Think smaller packs,
Okay.
multi-pack deals, even refillable bottles in some regions.
Interesting.
They're really adapting to those local needs
Yeah.
and economic realities.
Okay. But at the same time, they're not neglecting the premium market.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
They're investing in brands like Fairlife Milk
Right.
and, of course, Topo Chico.
Right, because those definitely have that like
Treat yourself.
treat yourself vibe.
Exactly.
And sometimes we all need a little indulgence, you know.
Totally. Even when we're watching our wallets.
Exactly.
It's all about understanding that consumer behavior, it's complex,
right.
and people are making different choices with their money.
Mhm.
And Coke is really catering to all those different needs.
Yeah, I found it interesting that in North America specifically,
Okay.
half of Coke's price mix increase came from like actual price hikes.
Right.
And then the other half came from that shift towards those higher end products.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really indicative of their brand investment strategy, isn't it?
It is. They're carefully like balancing their portfolio to appeal to all these different segments of the market.
Yeah.
And it seems to be paying off.
Yeah. And it makes you think about your own spending habits, doesn't it?
It does.
You know, are you cutting back right now?
Right.
Or are you like indulging in little luxuries?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how our like individual choices actually contribute to these like larger economic trends.
It really is.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
Right. So, okay, let's talk about this big shift
Yeah.
that Coke is making into like alcoholic beverages.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Coke and the hard stuff.
The hard stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely raised a few eyebrows,
It has.
you know, because it's such a bold move
It is.
for a brand that is so deeply associated with family-friendly drinks.
Totally. I mean, they're partnering up with some big players in the spirits industry, like
Yeah.
Jack Daniel's, Bacardi, Absolute.
Oh, yeah.
But they're also developing their own, like, unique alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, like simply spiked,
Yes.
hard seltzers, and they've even hinted at like boozy versions of Minute Maid.
Yeah, it's a far cry from, like, classic Coke.
For sure.
But it really shows their willingness to experiment
Yeah.
and diversify.
Yeah. So it seems like they're trying to capture like a whole new market.
They are.
But this move has to come with a completely different set of challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
They're used to operating in a space where the regulations are pretty straightforward.
Right.
But the world of alcoholic beverages,
Yeah.
it's a whole other ball game.
Yeah. I mean, like every country, every state, even every region
Mm-hmm.
has its own unique set of rules and regulations
Yeah.
around alcohol.
Absolutely. And those regulations impact everything from production and distribution
Yeah.
to marketing and consumption.
It's a complex web.
It is a complex web.
So Coke is basically going to have to learn the ropes of a whole new industry.
Yeah,
Which could definitely slow them down.
for sure. And they're going to have to tread carefully
Yeah.
because the consequences of like messing up alcohol regulations
Right.
can be really severe.
It's high stakes.
high stakes.
And the margin for error is so much smaller.
way smaller.
But I mean, this is a company that sells sugary drinks in almost every country on earth.
Right.
So they must have some experience navigating
They do.
different rules and regs.
They do. But alcohol regulations, they often carry a lot more weight, you know, both legally and in terms of public perception.
Interesting.
Because there's often a lot of scrutiny around the alcohol industry, especially when it comes to things like underage drinking
Right.
and responsible consumption.
Makes sense. So it's not just about legal compliance.
Nope.
they're going to have to be sensitive to the cultural norms around alcohol, too.
Exactly.
So it's a lot more complex than just like making a tasty drink.
It's not just about like creating a product. It's about building a responsible and sustainable business in a really highly regulated space.
And it'll be interesting to see how they do.
It will be.
All right, so we've talked about this bold move into the alcoholic beverage space.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out for a minute and look at Coke's overall performance.
Okay.
Because from what I've seen, they're facing some pretty strong headwinds right now.
They are.
Especially on like the financial front.
Right. And those headwinds are definitely putting pressure on their profitability.
I bet.
And one of the biggest challenges they're dealing with are currency exchange rates.
Yeah, I can see that being a problem.
The value of the U.S. dollar has been fluctuating like crazy lately, and that can have a huge impact on their earnings.
Yeah, because Coke is a global company.
Exactly. They generate revenue in so many different currencies.
Right.
So when those currencies weaken against the dollar, it can really hurt their bottom line.
So it's like hitting a moving target.
It is.
It's got to be so difficult to predict their financial performance with any certainty.
Super difficult.
So it's not just about like selling more Coke at this point.
Right.
It's about navigating all these global financial forces that are totally outside of their control.
Forces that are totally outside their control. And then on top of the currency problems, they're also dealing with those rising interest rates.
Oh, of course.
Which means it's more expensive
to borrow money.
To borrow money, exactly.
Which could impact their ability to invest in new initiatives.
It could. And don't forget about that ongoing tax dispute with the IRS.
Oh, yeah. That's been hanging over them for a while.
It has. They recently had to make a pretty big deposit.
Oh, wow.
To the IRS as part of that dispute.
Okay.
And that's put a bit of a dent in their cash flow.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even like corporate giants aren't immune to these kinds of legal and financial battles.
They are not.
So it seems like they're getting squeezed from all sides.
Yeah.
Currency fluctuations, rising interest rates, tax disputes. You'd think they'd be feeling pretty pessimistic about the future.
You would.
But from their earnings call, they actually sound pretty confident.
They do.
About their long-term growth prospects.
Yeah, and that's where their all-weather strategy comes in.
Okay, their all-weather strategy.
Yeah, so they're basically saying they're prepared to adapt and thrive in any economic climate.
No matter what.
No matter what, rain or shine.
I like it.
Yeah.
So it sounds good in theory.
Yeah.
But it's not just about weathering the storm, right?
Yeah.
They actually have to find opportunities for growth.
Yes, and that's where their focus on innovation and marketing really comes in.
Right.
Remember those clever marketing campaigns we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Those are perfect examples of how they're staying relevant and engaging consumers.
Yeah.
Even in a challenging environment.
And they're not just trying to sell more of the same either.
Right. They're experimenting.
They're experimenting.
With new products and flavors.
So appeal to different tastes.
Different demographics, exactly.
So like their push into healthier options.
Yes.
Like the low sugar and zero sugar drinks.
Exactly. They're recognizing that consumer preferences are changing.
Yeah.
And they're adapting their portfolio to match.
Right. So it's about staying agile. And anticipating those shifts.
Absolutely.
In the market.
That's right.
So it's almost like they're trying to reinvent themselves while still staying true to their like core identity.
Yeah, and that brings us to another challenge.
Yeah.
That they're facing sustainability.
Oh, yeah, sustainability.
Which is a topic.
A big one.
That has become increasingly important for consumers.
Right. And companies like Coke?
Are under a lot of pressure.
Are under a lot of pressure.
To address their environmental impact.
Yeah, because you think about the environmental impact of all those plastic bottles.
Well, that packaging.
And the packaging.
Yeah, it's a huge concern.
Yeah.
And consumers are holding these companies accountable. So Coke has been trying to reduce their plastic usage by investing in recycling programs and exploring different, more sustainable packaging options.
Right.
But they're still facing a lot of criticism from environmental groups who argue they're just not doing enough.
Or fast enough.
Fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're in a tough spot.
They are.
Because they need to be seen as making genuine progress on sustainability, but they also need to protect their profits.
It's a balancing act.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder that every business decision, every product, every marketing campaign that they do has implications that go way beyond just the bottom line.
Way beyond.
Yeah, so it's like they're juggling these multiple priorities at once.
Yeah.
Financial performance, innovation, sustainability.
It's a lot.
All against like this backdrop of a constantly shifting global landscape.
Absolutely. It's complex, it's challenging, but it's also incredibly fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is so fascinating to see how a company like Coke, this global giant, is like navigating this complex landscape that we're in.
It really is.
And speaking of navigating,
Yeah.
I think it's time for us to like navigate our way to the final part of this deep dive into Coke's Q3 earnings call.
Sounds good.
So we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have, from their marketing triumphs and their stumbles.
To their like foray into the world of boozy beverages.
Yes, alcoholic beverages.
And of course, those economic headwinds that they're facing.
Absolutely.
We've explored their strategy of balancing affordability and premiumization and, going into new markets.
Right.
And that increasing pressure they're feeling to address sustainability.
Yes.
But what does it all mean?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What can we actually learn from all of this?
Yeah. How can we apply these insights to our own lives?
Right.
To our businesses?
To our understanding of the world around us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. Like, what are the key takeaways you think our listeners should like walk away with today?
I think Coke's story is a really powerful reminder that even in these crazy times, this turbulent, unpredictable global economy, there are still tons of opportunities for growth and innovation.
I love that.
Yeah, they're not just sitting around waiting for things to get better.
They're not being passive.
No, they are actively adapting, experimenting, and pushing those boundaries.
And that's something we can all learn from.
We can.
Regardless of what we do or what challenges we're facing.
Absolutely. Whether it's in our careers, our personal lives, or even just our approach to learning and growing. That willingness to embrace change and experiment. Yeah. It's essential.
It is. And, another key takeaway for me is their focus on both affordability and premiumization.
Yeah.
Like offering both value-priced multi-packs.
Right.
And then those indulgent premium beverages. That's brilliant.
It's smart. They're acknowledging that people are making different choices with their money.
Yeah.
And they're catering to those diverse needs.
Yeah, it's a lesson in understanding your customer.
It is.
Segmenting your market and tailoring your offerings accordingly.
Absolutely.
And I got to say, I am super impressed by their marketing.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. They're not just selling drinks.
Yeah.
They're creating experiences.
They are.
They're evoking emotions. They're building connections.
They're masters of storytelling. They understand the power of connecting with their audience on a much deeper level.
Yeah.
And that's something that every brand can learn from.
For sure.
It's not just about shouting your message from the rooftops.
Right.
It's about crafting a narrative that really resonates with people.
But we can't ignore the challenges.
We can't.
The currency fluctuations, the rising interest rates, the tax dispute.
Yeah, all that stuff.
It's putting pressure on their profitability.
It is.
And it's a reminder that even the biggest and the most successful companies are not immune to those economic headwinds.
They are not. And the way that they're navigating all these challenges, it's also super insightful.
Yeah.
They're leveraging their scale, their brand recognition, their marketing power, but they're also staying focused on efficiency, cost cutting, and operational excellence.
It's like they're playing chess on a global scale.
They are.
Thinking several moves ahead and anticipating like every possible scenario.
And that's a really valuable lesson for any business leader.
What is it?
Never take your success for granted. Always be looking for ways to improve. And be prepared to make those tough decisions when you have to.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one final thought you want to leave our listener with?
I think Coke's story, it's like a tiny little microcosm of the global economy as a whole.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a story of challenges and opportunities, of risks and rewards, of constant innovation and adaptation.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a story that's still being written.
Yeah.
And it's one that we can all learn from.
Beautifully put.
Thank you.
I think you've given our listener a lot to chew on today.
I hope so.
And remember, whether you're an investor, a business owner, or just someone who's trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in.
It is a crazy world.
The insights that we glean from these deep dives can help us make smarter decisions.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Yes, it is.
Especially when we really take the time to understand it and apply it.
So true. All right. Until next time.
Yes.
Stay curious and keep exploring.